Welcome to the Stateless Standard. We're going back to the 60s again. This time, to look at Project MK often. Or, when the United States military hired witches, psychics and occultists. Not for a party or magic show, mind you, but to weaponize them. Sounds like a plot twist straight out of a B-movie, right? So, deep within the Byzantine halls of American intelligence, a project so mind-bogglingly strange and terrifying was launched. A continuation of MK Ultra. They called it Project MK often. Its mission? To explore the outer limits of human consciousness, then push it out over the edge. The whole circus began at the end of World War II, the beginning of the Cold War. As the Cold War ramped up, it became more than a battle of bombs and spies. It was a war of the mind. Military and intelligence intended to win by any means necessary. So, why fight with bombs when you can simply invade someone's mind? What could be more thrilling than using mind control, psychological warfare, and behavioral modification to conquer the invisible battlefield? Just a typical Tuesday for the CIA. Am I right? Rumors of so-called secret Soviet psychotronic research programs spread like wildfire through American intelligence agencies. The Soviet Union was exploring psychic warfare, unlocking hidden powers of the human mind for espionage and sabotage. Naturally, this sparked a wildfire of paranoia in American intelligence agencies. By 1953, fearing psychic Russians, the CIA launched the infamous MK Ultra program, thinking, hey, let's throw some LSD, hypnosis, and sensory deprivation into the mix and see what happens. But by the late 1960s, something shifted. Chemical experiments weren't enough. And MK Ultra scandals were starting to leak. You might think the CIA would slow their roll. But that would be far too intelligent for the CIA. Instead, the so-called Black Sorcerer of the CIA, Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, and his trusty sidekick, Dr. Stephen Aldrich, cooked up a parapsychology scheme with black magic, spirit possession, demon summoning and other spiritual works. I mean, hey, the CIA conjuring the supernatural? What could possibly go wrong? The stated goal was to explore the behavioral and toxicological effects of pharmaceutical agents. But declassified Pentagon memos tell an entirely different story. Operatives scouted individuals associated with black magic, demonology, astrology, and those knowledgeable in the occult. They recruited mediums in California, astrologers from New York, witches from New Orleans, and occult scholars from Princeton and Duke University. They researched demonology, numerology, Kabbalah, and other schools of mysticism. But what, exactly, were they hoping to find? To turn lead into gold? Use sorcery as a weapon? Lightning bolts from the sky? Who the blank knows? With it being national security and all that. The project was tied to the Army's Chemical Corps at the Edgewood Arsenal facility in Maryland. You know, that patriotic place where they did classified human subject research, such as exposing soldiers to chemical agents like BZ and mustard gas. And don't forget, dosing them with LSD. Alright, quick sidebar. Interestingly, rock star Frank Zappa's father, a chemist, worked at the Edgewood Arsenal. MK often involved civilian institutions, psychics, and gifted individuals far removed traditional science. Some were trained to perform remote viewing, seeing places and objects across vast distances without physical contact. Others were subjected to rituals and psychological tests aimed at unlocking their dormant psychic abilities. And while a lot of the documentation is conveniently redacted, it appears that they attempted communication with non-human entities too. Because, hey, why not? Intelligence, my ass. From the late 60s into the groovy 70s, they ran unofficial experiments behind locked doors at clandestine locations all across the country. Activities that included clinical and physical testing, sensory deprivation, remote viewing, telepathy, psychokinesis, and summoning demons under controlled conditions. Program leaders wanted mediums to communicate with spirits in an effort to predict political assassinations and other military events. For remote viewing missions, psychics were asked to locate Soviet nuclear submarines, map secret Chinese missile bases, and predict current troop movements, all without leaving the lab. Aleister Crowley's ceremonial magic and rituals were investigated for psychological impact and potential use for inducing spiritual terror. And let's not forget astrological warfare. Astrologers were tasked with creating geopolitical forecasts, timing certain operations based on astrological windows they believed would weaken enemy morale and/or their decision-making skills. Also, don't forget the eccentric civilian consulting network. Let's see here. Famous witch and astrologer at the time, Sybil Leek, who provided political forecasting. Andrea Purick, a parapsychologist and inventor, gave tarot card readings. And of course, Anton LaVey, the infamous juice founder of the Church of Satan. Things got so out of hand that by 1973, hardened CIA and military operatives began to fear they had opened doors to hell. Doors they could not close. Various reports describe strange phenomena, like objects moving, participants falling into trance states, unexplainable energy shifts. CIA scientists even began requesting psychological evaluations for themselves. Holy! What have they done? In 1975, as information about the CIA's MK-Ultra project began leaking out to the public, and public outrage over government abuse reached a fevered pitch. The Church Committee hearings completely blew the lid off the government's mind control experiments. Americans were left in complete disbelief. They had just learned that their government had secretly conducted experiments, using drugs and psychological torture, on its own citizens. MK-Ultra survivor Kathy O'Brien allegia that MK-Ultra's research was tied to experiments in ritual abuse designed to fracture minds and create programmable individuals. It seemed that MK-Ultra and MK often merged in partnership. The program cultivated techniques that became fundamental to psychological operations. In covert wars throughout Asia, Africa, and Latin America, psychological tactics often blurred war and superstition, manipulating enemy populations through fear of ghosts, curses, and otherworldly forces. So, did this serve any purpose? Well, Project MK often normalized the idea that nothing, not even the supernatural, was off-limits when it came to state power. But is the occult really a hidden power that could shift history? They seem to think it could. Much of the findings and research, however, is still classified or just missing. If the pursuit of ultimate control means unlocking forces we truly don't understand, then who exactly is controlling whom? Makes one wonder about that weird Luciferian meditation room at the UN building. Anyway, when government agencies start hiring witches, conjuring demons, testing psychic warfare, and attempting to dominate the human mind, well, let's just say the boundaries of morality are getting fuzzier by the day. Thank you for listening to the Stateless Standard. Please hit the like button, it helps us out a whole bunks. Subscribe and tell your friends too.